I'm ready to do some more transfers today. I have here the first dishes where I put a drop of the king oyster culture on. You can see it growing there at the edge of the dish where the drop must have ran. Two more dishes I made, don't have anything growing on them yet. Made those with a few drops of the culture just in case there wasn't enough on there. This original dish of Entomoma that I did transfers from, now it has bacteria all over it. So yeah, definitely bacteria in that. And then these two dishes where I had the transfers, you can see it growing out, and probably still bacteria in that I have to do another transfer away to make sure it's clean. So I'm going to do some transfers with the Entomoma and the king oyster. Make sure everything is clean so I can have something I can store in the fridge. I'll do these king oyster transfers first just because those Entomoma dishes most likely have bacteria in them, and I don't want the bacterial spores to have any chance of getting out before I do this. Let the alcohol dry off. Flame my scalpel. Always make sure that you do a little bit of flame about an inch up. That area is still going to be within reach of contaminating the dish. But mostly focus on the end. And I made a good sizzle, so I know it's plenty hot. I can just stab or run it through to help cool it off a little faster. And I'm going to cut a little bit from here. Turn it on its side. Let it release from the scalpel. Next dish in there. I think I'm going to go look for a low wire shelf, like an inch or two tall, like this one. That way I don't have to keep having an extra dish there. And, you know, really, I should have two dishes to stand this one up too. Always cool your scalpel in the clean agar. Don't cool it off in any open spaces in your dish that you're doing transfers from. You'll run the risk of maybe sticking it in something that you don't realize is there, like some bacteria. And make sure I keep these dishes on the far right side, and then when I get done with these 4 transfers, I'll label the top 2 dishes with a marker so I don't lose track of what is what. Always got to keep organized. I really kind of made this dish a bit thick too. It's like when I stab into it, quite a bit of agar there. See how I make this last stab at an angle so I can slide underneath of it, and then it just pops the chunk right out onto the scalpel. Kind of make a wedge out of it. That's why you want to pour your agar pretty thin, unless you're storing something in the fridge. You can have it thicker so your culture's lasting longer, has more food to eat. You can also do a bit of a makeshift slant in the fridge. You just take half a popsicle stick, throw it in there in your agar dish. It won't have the long-lasting capabilities of a slant, but it'll last a lot longer than just a plain agar. And when it gets too thick, I actually kind of cut it halfway underneath of it. Kind of undercut it. You can see it's not, it'd be a lot taller of a cut. But of course any of the agar below the surface that doesn't have mycelium in it isn't, it's kind of pointless to even transfer it. It just makes it more difficult. So you might as well slice the very top off if it's thick. Alright, there's that. Looks like I got a lot of area to work with on this entoloma transfer. On this dish, most of the growth is in the center, so I can just take the leading edge of it over here, 4 different spots. It's always best to take the transfers a little bit of distance from one another. That way you run down the risk of grabbing something you don't see. Always takes a little bit longer for the first transfer to heat up your scalpel because, you know, it's not warm at all. Well, if it sizzles when you put it in the agar, you definitely know it's hot. Alright, let's take this first transfer. Can you see how the chunk has a bit of a rhombus shape to it? I put it closer to the camera. Maybe I'll do that for one at the end so you can see it. Yeah, the rhombus shape comes from cutting the sides straight down, and then the front cut is at a slant, and then the back cut is at a slant, And it's that back cut and that rhombus shape that pops the transferred piece onto the scalpel. Go down about a ½ inch. You can see if you're doing a lot of these dishes and a lot of transfers, this can be a time-consuming process. It's very tedious. That's why it helps if you can find dishes that have the triple split, the Y-shaped dishes. But like I said before, any of the dishes that like that I found, at least disposable-wise, always showed up broken and destroyed through the mail, so that's unfortunate. Of course, the larger piece you cut out, the more mycelium and any surrounding material you're grabbing, and the higher chance that you're going to get something you don't see. When doing transfers for strain isolation, it's very important to keep the transfer size down small so that it expands as much as possible. That way the many thousands of different strains can separate, have more room to separate. Take this one from a different portion. Oh, see, I lost the wedge. Kind of slid off, but kind of carefully pull it back to the hole you made and get back underneath of it. Sometimes if it's a bit too difficult to get the wedge back on your scalpel, you finagled it, you got the dish open for way too long, it's really just best to close it up and re-sterilize and try to take another transfer from a different portion. But with practice you get better at it. So yeah, let me show you a chunk up close. I'll make this chunk a little bit bigger too for visual sake. Yeah, see, I got it on its side. But yeah, you have a straight walls that way, and then a slanted walls on the top and bottom. Alright, so hopefully I got some clean cultures of king oyster and entoloma. I really like to try the entoloma, the shrimp of the woods. I don't think anybody really knows about it, so for a new mushroom, it'll be a little bit difficult to market it, but I know it tastes good. And all you gotta do is get samples out and convince people. So we'll see how that goes this market season.